Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Israel Brief with me, Rolene Marks, and in partnership with these guys, Lay of the Land. And we've come to the end of what can only be described as a devastating week, a traumatic week for us in Israel. It is 335 days since the 7th of October. We are fast closing in on that 1-year anniversary, but also it has been a week that started with news of the brutal execution of 6 hostages, Ori, Alex, Almog, Eden, Kamel, and Hirsch. Hirsch, known to so many of us almost as the face of the hostages, his arm blown off at the elbow, and of course his extraordinary family who traveled the length and the breadth of the world to try and secure his release and that of the other, now 101 hostages. So let's take a look at the top stories making headlines before we all go off for a well-deserved rest. And we begin in Germany, where shots were fired outside the Israeli consulate in Munich earlier today. Now, we don't have too many details. We do know that German security forces neutralized the terrorist responsible. Germany's interior minister described it as a serious incident and that the safety of Israeli institutions remains a priority. President Herzog spoke with his counterpart, President Steinmeier, and they both condemned the horror of the terror attack, and especially as it comes today and tomorrow, the anniversary of the 1972 Munich Olympic massacre. And the consulate was actually closed so that the staff could go to ceremonies to honor those that were murdered during those terror attacks so many years ago. The president also thanked Germany's security forces for ensuring that the potential tragedy was averted. Yesterday, the IDF and the ISA, which is the Shabak, released footage and images of the tunnel where the bodies of the 6 hostages were discovered. The entrance was inside a child's bedroom, surrounded by fluffy toys with cartoon characters that were drawn on the wall. And it shows you the absolute cynical use of civilian infrastructure, whether it be mosques, hospitals, schools, and private residences by Hamas, not only to use their civilians as human shields, but to torture and murder our civilians who they have taken hostage. Absolutely terrifying. And the IDF said that the area around the tunnel was extensively booby-trapped. Last night, Prime Minister Netanyahu addressed the foreign press in English, and he made a compelling case for why he believes Israel should not vacate the Philadelphia corridor inside the Gaza Strip. Now, this little strip of land, as I've been saying here on the Israel Brief, is seen as quite strategic. It forms the border between the south of the Gaza Strip and Egypt, and is known to contain many tunnels, although many of them have been dismantled, and has been the conduit by which arms, money, whatever Hamas has needed, financing, has been smuggled in from the Egypt side of the border. Now, he wanted to present his case because it is contra to some of the opposition, including 2 former defense chiefs and our security chiefs, including the head of the Mossad, the head of the Shabak, and the head of the army, who believe that we need to conclude a deal to release the hostages immediately. They are running out of time, and that we have dealt Hamas significant damage, that it is okay to vacate the Philadelphia, at least for the duration of the 40-something day ceasefire. it has also been reported that Israel has agreed to, in phase 2 of the ceasefire, withdrawing from parts of the Philadelphia. But these are all details that still need to be ironed out. Negotiations and ideas and strategy is still being floated around. So I'm going to present to you some of Prime Minister Netanyahu's key points that he addressed last night. He said, if we leave the Philadelphia corridor, Hamas will rearm and Gaza will again pose a threat to Israel. He argued that holding the corridor is essential to prevent Hamas from also possibly smuggling hostages into Egypt, making it harder for our troops to potentially rescue them. He says without control, Hamas could easily smuggle hostages out through the corridor. He also dismissed the idea that Israel's position is blocking progress. He insists that maintaining control is vital for long-term security. He says, leaving the corridor would not advance the deal. It would weaken Israel's ability to protect itself. Many hostage families disagree, with some claiming that Netanyahu's insistence on controlling the corridor has delayed negotiations and prolonged their suffering. They argue that focusing on security and not the hostages is costing precious time for the ability to secure the release of the hostages. And finally, despite Prime Minister Netanyahu's firm stance on staying in the Philadelphia corridor in the short term, his close allies, Strategic Minister Ron Dermer, indicated yesterday that Israel could consider withdrawing from the area in the second phase of a potential ceasefire deal. Now, adding a lot more tension and a lot more difficulty is elements from the coalition, the more far-right leaning ministers like Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich and National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir, who have said that they will do everything in their power to block a cabinet proposal that would have given the negotiators more flexibility. And I can't imagine how hostage families would feel hearing that ministers in the government would potentially block a deal. So very, very tense times, very difficult times, as all parties try to reach an agreement that would protect Israel's security interests while ensuring that the hostages are released. An unenviable position to be in, I think, for anyone who has to sit around the negotiating table. And finally, as I alluded to in the first story, it is the anniversary of the 1972 Munich massacre. We can't forget that on the 5th and 6th of September in 1972, at the Munich Olympics, Black September terrorists, Palestinian terrorists, took captive 11 athletes and their coaches before finally murdering them. I don't think any of us can forget those iconic words and images coming in from Munich, which stated that they're all gone. They were all brutally murdered. And we've just concluded the Olympics, and we're currently busy with the Paralympics, where Israel's Paralympians have been competing magnificently, despite threats to carry out a second 1972 massacre. So this year, the memorials are even more poignant. They come less than a year since the massacres of the 7th of October, and also at a time where we have just completed the Olympics and are busy with the Paralympics, and we remember the athletes. I'm going to take a minute to read you their names. André Spitzer, Josef Goldfreund, Zeev Friedman, Mark Slavin, David Berger, Kehat Shor, Eliezer Halfin, Amitzur Shapira, Yosef Romano, Moshe Weinberg, and Yaakov Springer. May their memories eternally be blessed. And now it is your favorite time of the show, where we take a look at the audience question of the day. And this one comes from Mandy in Australia, who says, Why hasn't Israel initiated any offensive strike against Iran, such as their nuclear sites or their oil fields, etc.? Well, excellent question, Mandy. Really, really excellent question. I think Israel is fighting Iran both covertly and overtly. And we have seen mysterious explosions, whether they be attributed to Israel or not, at various strategic installations. But I think we are also taking into account that Iran is fighting through its proxies, Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, and others, and we are battling on their front. But we have warned Hamas, as you saw in recent weeks, that should they strike Israel directly from their sovereign territory onto our sovereign territory, we will strike back significantly. So I think that is the reason that we haven't seen Israel initiate a major strike. But this is the Middle East, and only the strong survive. So we will have to see what happens in the future. So guys, before I let you all go for a wonderful and a peaceful weekend, I want to say thank you for all your support during this very, very difficult week, and remind you to check out our website at www.layoftheland.online, our Facebook page at Lottel's site. Our YouTube channel is at the Israel Brief. We're on Instagram on my page, Rolene Marks, on X at Lay of the Land 5. And I wish you all a wonderful weekend. Shabbat Shalom. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. God bless you. Bye for now.